National Law University, and from the past two classes we have been discussing various units and topics covered under the course, which is Organizational Theory and Design. The code of this course is MMPH 001, and today we are going to start with the Unit 5. Till now we have covered Unit 1, 2, 3, and 4, and at the end of this unit, you should be able to understand the meaning of organization and its design and structure, then various objectives of the organization and its design, the different principles of organizational design and structure, theories of organizational design structure, important factors that affect organizational design and structure, and meaning of organizational effectiveness. What are the criteria to measure the organizational effectiveness? Okay. So starting with the structure, this unit is divided into 6 to 7 sections. First, we'll be dealing with the introduction, then meaning of organizational design and structure, then the purpose, principles of good organizational design, then what are the various theories of organization and the key factors affecting the organizational design, and various other factors which are going to affect the organizational structure. Okay, so looking at the background, the technological advancements has brought about far-reaching changes in the methods of work and also in the organizational design. Now, globalization of market, changing methods of production, economic instability, etc., over the factors which affect the organizational design. And it is in the context the present unit seeks analysis of the concept and to outline the principles and theories associated with it. Now, the term organizational design refers to how various parts of the organization and the distinct elements are brought together to make it uh, a success one. It considers both how these elements match together and ways in which they may be analyzed and improved. The design aspect broadly include how organizations are structured and the type and numbers of job and the processes and procedure which are used to evaluate or analyze this entire organization or design are handle and pass information, make decisions, produce results, manage quality, communicate information, plan or develop and manage resources, innovate and handle crisis. Now, broadly, an organization is designed to realize a number of objectives. These objectives could be to support the organizational design. The structure should be designed in such a way as to assure the realization of the organization's goals and objectives. Then, to arrange resources in the most efficient and effective way. Then, to provide the effective decisions of the tasks and accountabilities among the individuals and groups. And another objective of designing an organization is to ensure effective coordination of the organization's activities and clarify the decision making processes. Okay, so the next we see is that another few objectives related to organizational design and structure are to enhance and elucidate the lining of communication, both upward and downward, across the organization. Then to permit the effective monitoring and review of the organization's activities and overall performances, to ensure with the mechanisms for coping with changes in the market, the product, and the internal and external environments, then to help in handling the crisis and various problems being posed by the uncertainty in the business environment. Then again to help and motivate and manage the employees, and then have a sense of job satisfaction in the individual and other members of the organization. And finally, it tries to provide the management the succession over a long period of time. Now, good organizational design should go along with the following principles. These are the set of principles which guide how the organizational design or structure should be. So, the various part of these structures should be divided into specialist areas, and these specialist areas need to be interlinked so because they are all interdependent in nature. Then the number of levels of structure, sometimes referred to as the scalar chain, should be as few as possible. Then another principle says that the span of control, that is the number of subordinates directly managed by one supervisor, may vary according to the nature of the work and the organization, but it should not be so narrow that it results in structure with too many levels or too broad to allow effective management. Then there should be what has been described as unity of command. For this, the reporting position and authority need to be clearly defined. Then every post in the structure should be a clear role and should add value to the organizational function. Further, we should keep in consideration the principle that the extent to which the organization should be centralized or decentralized and will need to be determined by the reference to the number of factors. These include the nature and type of industry, geographical dispersion, then history, environment resources available, etc. Now, structure must be designed to take account of the changes in the environment also, which can include the economy, the legislation, markets, technological developments, geographical changes, and various climate issues, then cultural environment and social environment. So, every layer of the business environment and factors operating in it should be considered while designing the organizational structure. Then, as much as the contingency theory research has studied, is referred to structural contingency theory. So, we are discussing the various theories of organization design and structure. And then, structural contingency theory contains three core elements that together form its core ideology. First, there is an association between contingency and the organizational structure. Second core element is that contingency determines the organizational structure because an organization that changes its contingency, then consequences changes its structure. And in this way, organization can survive any given threat or opportunity by the organizational environment. Then the third is the fit of some level of the organizational structure variable to each level of the contingency, which leads to higher performance, whereas misfits lead to lower level of performances in the organization. The fit performance relationship is the heart of the contingency theory paradigm and provides the theoretical explanation of the first 2 points, that was the association between contingency and the structure, and then that the contingency determines the overall organizational structure. Okay. Now, key factors affecting the design or the structure of the organization. So, the selection of an appropriate design may be reliant upon the primary factor and that affects the organizational design. These primary factors are size, which is that the organization is large or small or medium scale. Then the environment, which it should focus, that is basically the macro level or general environment, and then the specific factors or micro level environmental factors. Then the strategy, which can be a generic strategy or competency based strategy, and then the technology, which is advancement in the global economy or global market. So first, we let's discuss the size and the organizational design as the key factor which affects the overall structure. How size matters. So the size is a main contingency factor that affects the several aspects of the overall organizational structure. The size contingency refers to the total number of employees who are to be organized in the organization. Now, it is such a key that structural variable is subject to two schools of thought. First is the bigger is the better model, which opines that the per unit cost of the production can be decreased if the size of the organization is large. And in the effect, bigger is said to be more efficient. And the second approach is small is beautiful, and it revolves around the diminishing returns, law of diminishing returns. Now, the bigger is not essentially better and small is not essentially beautiful. It should be kept in mind while designing the overall structure. So, hard and fast numbers regarding the precisely how big is too big and how small is too small are hard to obtain. How to decide? So, the best that managers can do is to check the productivity, quality, and the efficiency of the decision departments and profit centers of the organization. Then the second key factor which we have already dealt is organizational generic and specific environment. So organization as an is an open system we have already discussed when we were discussing various concepts in human resource development, and then the first two units of organizational theory and design as well. So organizations are open system and need to receive various inputs from the environment, and again the output is meant for the outer environment, and therefore it is, and the entire transformation process that takes into place for transforming the input into output, again there are various variables in the environment or factors which are going to affect the processing also. So therefore it is important to comprehend what the environment is and what are the various elements likely to be important for which will be affecting the overall organizational performance. So keeping in mind the environmental factors is very important when it comes to organizational design. So, the environment of an organization may be defined as generic or specific. Here, we are referring to environment in the sense that we are dealing with the external environment and not the internal environment as of now. So, the generic environment is a set of cultural, economical, legal, political, and societal conditions within the area in which the organization operates. So, generic environment is overall same for the different sectors or industries and may affect differently all these sectors. Then specific environment constitutes its own owners and suppliers, distributors, government agencies, which are specific to that particular sector or industry, and competitors which an organization must interact to go and survive. A firm typically much more concerned over the composition of its specific environment than of its general environment. So, a specific environment must be considered with more focus when designing the overall organization. The environment's complexity is an estimate of the magnitude of the problems or opportunities in the organizational environment. The more complex or volatile the environment is, the organizational design should be planned in such a way that it is able to overcome the complexity or the challenges which are bound to come from time to time. So this identified by three major factors: the degree of richness, the degree of interdependence, and the degree of uncertainty stemming from both the generic or the specific environmental factors. So, what are these? So, richness of the environmental complexity denotes that the organizations are very much having an abundant environment, and there are no scarcity or less scarcity when it comes to the availability of resources. Then, the degree of interdependence, how much dependent one factor is upon the another, and one agent of the organization is upon the another. So interdependence, that how much interdependency is there, and the degree of uncertainty, how volatile that. If we take the example of Japan, there are a number of natural calamities, and the what do we say, the earthquakes are very much very much pertinent in that particular organizations or in that particular geographical area. So they take need to take such precaution while designing their overall organization. Then the strategy and organizational design. How strategy is affecting the overall organizational design is also a matter of consideration while organizing the various activities in the organization. So, what is strategy? It refers to the way organization position itself in the setting in relation to its stakeholders and given the organization's resources, capabilities, and mission. Basically, there are two types of strategies which are very popular when it comes to organization uh, and the overall design. So, generic strategy in terms of cost focus and product focus. In terms of cost focus, according to Porter, companies need to differentiate the place and place themselves differently from their competitors in order to build and sustain a competitive advantage and a position in the market. And then the organizations have attempted to build competitive advantages in various ways. But three underlying strategies are very essential, that is low cost, differentiation, and focus. So these type of various generic strategies can be implemented by the company to have an edge over its competitors. Now, low cost strategy is based on the organization abilities to provide the product or a service at a lower cost than its rivals. And the organizational design is functional with accountability and responsibility clearly defined and assigned to various departments. Now, what stands for differentiation strategies based on providing customers with something that is unique in nature and makes organization's product or services distinct from its competitors. An organization that chooses a differentiation strategy typically uses a product organization design whereby each product has its own manufacturing, own research and development, and then marketing department. So the designing is based on the specific product. That what is focused strategy? Now, when it comes to generic strategy, focused strategy is one of the major types of all those three. Is designed to help the organization target a specific niche within an industry. So, unlike both the low cost and the differentiation strategy, which are designed to target industry-wide market, an organization that chooses focused strategy may utilize any of a variety of organizational design ranging from functional to product mix to network to satisfy their customers preferences. So competency based strategies are second category of the marketing strategies which define the overall organizational design. So the list of generic strategies provide a quick general guide for many senior managers, and it is apparent that a firm needs to identify the skill and abilities to get the most out of the intended generic strategy. Now, eventually, the firm may develop certain specific administrative and technical competencies to achieve the purpose of the generic strategy. So, a middle and low level managers bring about minor modification and adjustment to solve the specific problems and capitalize on specific opportunities. So, they and their firms may learn new skills. So, in this way, we can see how generic strategies are being turned into a specific competency based approach. So, these skills may be recognized by the senior level management and give them both the opportunity to adjust and modify and build upon a generic strategy to develop a so called competency based strategy. In this process, the build of building upon its capabilities and skills, the firm may actually move from generic strategy and or combine elements of two or more generic strategy. And this strategic choice refers to an idea that an organization interacts with its environment instead of being totally determined by it. So instead of dictate environment dictates how organizational strategy would be or how it will be designed. This approach takes into consideration the various factors and thus arrives at a point that the organization interacts with the environment, and thus it is based upon the choice of the strategy it has made. Then the fourth approach or key factor which is considered while designing the overall organization is the two most technological contingencies that influence the type of organization structure and a variety of analyzable of work activities. So the variety here refers to the number of exceptions to standard procedure but can occur in the team or work unit. Now analyzability refers to the extent that the transformation of input resources to the output can be reduced to a series of standardized steps. Some jobs are routine and meaning that employees perform the same task of all time and rely on set of rules, that is standing operating procedures. When exceptions occur, almost everything is predictable, and these situations, such as automobile assembly lines, have high formalization and centralization as well as standardization of the work processes. Another key factor in the technological perspective is that when employees perform tasks with high variety and low analyzability, they apply their skill to unique situation with little opportunity for repetition. The research project teams and operate under such conditions. And these situations call for organic culture, one with low formalization, high decentralization and decision making authority, and coordination mainly through informal and communication among the team members. So high variety and high analyzability tasks have many exceptions to routine, but these exceptions can usually be resolved through standard procedures. Maintenance group and engineering design teams experience these conditions a lot. So work unit that fall into this category could use an organic structure, and but it is possible to have somewhat greater formalization and centralization due to analyzability of the problem. Now, other related factors which are going to affect the entire organizational design and the procedure is organizational structure is also affected by typical market and customer dynamics. So, type of market and customer it serves, and in a customer responsive environment, it should be one of the main determinants of what kind of the organizational structure is going to be. Then, if the organization is providing services to a board range of customers in a large number of locations, then it may need to have many branches, offices, as do bank and the post office and so on. Then were various processes that are conducted for the entire organization. Then process used to within the organization also affect the entire structure. Then production line process consists of a number of distinct tasks carried out by people specializing in those tasks at different stages of the process. Then people associated with the organization also affect the overall organizational structure. Let's see how. So organization affect the structure in a lot of ways. So structures do not just appear, they are result of people's view and belief and their approach to managing the entire organization. People here affect the organization and the jobs the people are doing in the organization. So people are the key element of any organizational behavior, any HRD department, or if we consider an organization as a whole. So structure with a large number of people and professionals are likely to involve more team working, and therefore it is relatively flat compared with the organization that has to accommodate a range of jobs from production line operative to the chairman. Then geography also affects the organizational overall structure. Spreading of an organization affects its structure because it needs to bear and it need to be near the raw materials or where it is getting its supply, and the where customers reside. Where there is a significant degree of geographical distribution, there is likely to be more need of careful coordination and control than an organization which are going to operate in the single site location. Then, when there is a strong need to provide product and services within a geographical area, the organizations may divide itself into regions or area, with each having its full self-contained miniature version of the parent organization. So, how many geographical locations are getting served by the organization? What is the availability of raw material? And do the product needs to be catered to the customers within a small span of time, a short span of time, will decide what kind of structure the overall organization is going to have. Then coming up with the another unit which is there in your block 2 of this entire course is typology of organizational design. So by the end of this unit, you'll be able to understand the characteristics of the different organizational structure that an organization can have. Then explain the various advantages of these and disadvantages of these organizational structure and how these have evolved in the first place. And examine the advantages, disadvantage of the organizational structure. With that, we are going to discuss the typology of organization has been uh, divided into several sections. First, we'll be looking out in the on the wire background, how this typology has developed. Then, what are the various types of organizational designs? We are going to discuss one by one in the separate sections. So, looking out at the background, the organizational structure specific or specifies the various jobs and tasks and shows how the same are formally divided, grouped, and coordinated. This entire design provides an appropriate framework for authority and responsibility relationship. The design also indicates the hierarchy of the authority relationship and means to help the management to achieve the organization's overall structure and objective. Now, as the objective of the organizations are derived from the overall strategy of the organization, it is logical that an organization structure is closely linked to its strategy. Then, as such, if the management makes a significant change in the organization strategy, overall organization structures need to be modified to accommodate and support the change in the strategy and also consider the evidence to indicate that the choice of organizational strategy, which is going to be stability strategy, growth strategy, there are certain factors which are going to be a determining factors like organization size, technology being used and by the organization, then environmental uncertainty. We have already discussed those four determinants of organizational design in our last unit. Okay, so information technology and globalization have led to the tremendous impact in the organizational strategies and structures. Many of today's managers realize that the traditional organizational structure based on the bureaucratic principles that we have discussed in the third unit and second unit of this entire course, that what bureaucratic model of the organization means. So if we follow the same principles, we can no longer run in the market. So provide a solution to changes posed by the new paradigm and change or shift in the environment cannot be done with the old structure and traditional bureaucratic principles. So that there is need of flexibility, adaptability to change, creativity in the environment of organization, then innovation, knowledge and ability to overcome the environmental uncertainties and challenges are among the biggest issues faced by the organization these days. So Let's discuss these organizational structures one by one. So, first is the line organization. What is this? It is the simplest form of the organizational structure based on the scalar principle of Henry Fayol's 14 principles of management. States that the authority and responsibility relationship should flow in a direct line and vertically from the highest level of the organization to the lowest level. The primary emphasis upon is upon the superior and subordinate relationship. Every person in the organization is in the direct chain of command. It facilitates decision making and execution of various planning because there is a definite authority at each level of the hierarchy. So everybody knows who they have to or who they are supposed to report. So this is a particular figure or chart of the line organization. We have general manager and then production manager, finance manager, marketing, another level of managers is there, that is deputy manager, foreman, workers. Then we see that there is different section that deals with the another type of organization, which is line and staff organization. The most businesses operations, except very small, have this type of structure. As the organization have grown complex then due to the environmental complexities, the problems of line executive have become sufficiently complicated. As we see in the line structure, this is very simple format and everybody knows whom to report, and this is the basic organizational structure. Now when we see line and staff structure, this type of structure is designed to overcome the limitations of a simple line structure in the organization. So the line executives, being generalists, need the advice of personnel with specialized knowledge and function to tackle these issues. For this purpose, the staff positions are created in the organization. In the line and staff organization, the line authority remains the same and it does in the line with the organization, and the authority flows from top to bottom, and the line executive perform various functions and staff functionaries support these line staff, line managers, and advise them for the better performance in the organization. Then, for example, for sound management of human resources, for the line managers are provided with specialized assistance through personal or human resource managers. As staff functionaries are involved to perform supportive functions and supportive role, they do not have any power in the command or command in the organization. The command again resides in the hands of the line manager. So, what advantage does this line and staff organization structure poses? Is that the staff specialists relieve the line executives and they rely upon them and of the botheration of concentration and specialized functions like selection, training, wages and salary administration, accounting and public relations. Or these line managers depend upon the staff members or managers who help them to conduct all these processes. Now, disadvantage of this structure is that since functionaries are not accountable for the results, they may not perform their duties and tasks effectively because they know that the accountability of the success of the processes implemented does not rely upon them. So this is a kind of a structure which is line and staff. We see board of directors, financial advisors, and chief accounting officers, and then HR managers, manager level, assistant to managing director, then manager division 1, 2, and 3. So it is a mixture of line managers supported with certain staff manager who are specialized in their function and field. Then the functional organizational structure. It is also one of the traditional structure on which the organization is based upon. So this is the most widely used form of organizational structure because of its simple, logical, and common sense appeal. Here, we know that different tasks and functions are being performed by the various managers. So the tasks and functions are grouped together on the basis of the common functions. Like if there are functions of like recruitment, selection, controlling, directing, and motivating the employees, compensating them from time to time, and retaining them in the organization. So these tasks are performed by certain group. So these are common functions. So they are grouped together, and all the production activities or financial activities are grouped into a single function, which undertakes all the tasks required for that particular area or aspect of the organization. So the functional structure suits best to the small to medium organization producing one or few products, where the goals of the organization emphasize the functional specialization, efficiency, and quality. So advantages of this structure are that by grouping of people together on the basis of their specialized expertise, the organizations facilitate both their utilization and their coordination in the service of the whole organization. Functional grouping also provides opportunity for promotion and career development and career advancement to each employee, and thus secures job loyalty or organizational loyalty from its employees. Then what could be the disadvantages? So this type of form of organization is the growth of sectional interaction or interest which may conflict with the needs of organization as a whole. Like there could be conflict because of resources between the marketing department to the HR environment or HR department, and then HR department to the research and development team. So there could be a certain growth of sectional interest which could lead to discord in the overall organizational environment. So for example here we can see that the members of production department will see their activities from narrow perspective from their own department rather than viewing the same from the broader perspective of the entire organization. So everybody would be focused towards their own department, own work, and overall organizational goal and objectives could be hampered or hindered. Now, this is a functional organization chart would look like if you could see the following chart which has been displayed in front of you. Then fifth type of organizational design we can see is the production organization or product organization, adopted by a large number of companies producing wide range of products like HUL, then we have Coca-Cola, then we have Pepsi, then we can see Nestle. These are the brands which are uh, which are having a wide range of products. So here the activities are grouped on the basis of individual product. Now, like if we take the example of Nestle, we see there's a product line with Maggie brand Maggie, and then there's just a product line with the coffee and then the chocolates. Okay, so these are the various sub-products with a wide range of product under the product uh, parent company, that is Nestle. So the activities are grouped on the basis of individual product manufactured by the company. Thus, one finds autonomous little companies within the parent company and adopting this type of organizational structure. As such, within each of these little independent units, we will find all important functions being getting done, and there can be production, marketing department, then finance department, human resource department. So each of the different product will have their separate unit with all the independent functional unit. So the organizational structure of large multi-product pharmaceutical company, if we see for example, can look like this. There could be a managing director and different sub departments are there with their own directors, and then there will be general managers with cosmetics, manufacturing vaccines, and sterile supplies and sanitary supplies. Then the general manager of vaccines will be heading out the entire function of managing production and manager sales and marketing and accounting and human resources. So the differentiation in the strategy strategy of designing the whole structure is having separate single unit for each and every product they have. Then product organizational structure or divisional structure can have advantages and disadvantages as well. So looking out on the advantages of the product organization is that it enables diversification of the products to take place with minimal effort. So there is no confusion. Every product had its same and different unit. There is no or less chances of conflict between different product units. So another advantage is that it can cope better with the technical change by grouping of certain activities which are confined for a particular product. So people with expertise and their specialized equipment with one major unit are dealt differently and thus have an advantageous position. Okay, so what can be the disadvantage of product organization? Each product division may promote its own product group and in a way that creates problem to the other product division of the company. So it may happen that the impact of Maggie's production, like we saw a few years back, that there was some lead particle in the production involved in the production of Maggie. So Nestle was all the product of Nestle had a certain impact of the bad word of mouth publication. We see the bad impact of Maggie that it had on the entire Nestle group of product. So disadvantage of a particular single product can lead to the disadvantageous position in the market of the same of the different products of the same parent company. Okay, so in this way there can be disadvantages and one particular product may be a market leader whereas the another product may not be a market leader or could be behind the market share when it is compared to the other product of the same of the parent company. Okay, then hybrid structure is another structure or design which we could consider here while discussing. So it combines the feature and advantages and it takes into consideration the advantages of functional as well as the divisional form of the organizational structures. So when organizations start to get very large, establishes some self-contained units. So functions that are considered important to each product are decentralized to the units. However, some functions like finance and accounting are centralized at headquarters for practical reasons. The functional part of the organization is reflected in the departments that is centralized at the corporate level. However, each of the product divisions are specialists in functional areas for necessary assistance. The important advantages of hybrid functions are the overall organization enjoys the benefit of both functional as well as the decentralized structures. It provides the opportunity to improve coordination both within and among the divisions of the organization. Then hybrid structure also enables the organization to pursue an adaptive strategy within the product division while at the same time achieving efficiency in the functional departments. It helps in proper alignment of corporate and divisional goals. A major disadvantage of this hybrid structure is that often it leads to excessive duplication of activities between functions and divisions. Another disadvantage is its tendency to create conflict between headquarters or and the divisional functions. So this can be an outlook or a chart which a hybrid organization could have. So we can view this and understand in a better way. We see then there can be formal and informal organization in the same organization and both are very important for the overall success and growth of the organization. Let's see, we all the structure that we have discussed till now are type of formal organizational structures, and these structures are clearly defined, have clearly defined jobs, have bearing a definite amount of responsibility and authority. The formal organization lays down that the formal procedure, rules, and code of conducts, and this guides the behavior of individual performance in a particular organization. Now, what is informal organization? It is the outcome of social interaction and interdependence that take place between the individual of a formal organizational structure. When people come together, work together, they tend to confine within each confide among themselves and tend to form informal connections and work groups. This happens often simultaneously because of the fixed physical proximity and commonality of interest, etc. These informal groups are collectively known as informal organization. So, unlike the formal organization, this type of organization exists in the entire organization, and it is unstructured and not given. It happens on its own. And generally, it is an official organization born out of a formal organizational structure. So it has its own structure, it has its roles, procedure, norms, values which are unwritten. And members join it voluntarily and are evolved through consensus among the members of an informal group. So there is no rigidity that who can join it, who can leave it, and there is no specific procedure to get involved in the informal group or get or exit from that particular informal. So it's very voluntary activity, and the organization which are informal does not have a fixed chain of command. Anybody can talk to anyone. Like if I'm the boss, any subordinate can come and talk to me if we are part of the formal organization. It is based on the sentiment of the members. The communication patterns are not fixed, and such communication may flow in any direction. Then, in contrast to formal organizational analysis, the dysfunctional aspect of informal organization, such as conflicting objectives, restriction on output, resistance to change, have received more attention than the functional ones. In other words, the informal organization is often projected to be a counterproductive to the formal organization. In reality, however, the informal organization can benefit the formal organization in various ways. It can prove to be a useful channel for communication. It lightens up the entire work organization and lightens the overall workload of the management as well. If the latter gives due importance to the formal organizational groups, then it reduces the undesirable effect of rigidity of the formal organization and provides a safety valve for the employees' emotional well-being. Then term centralizations and there is decentralization. These terms are very much pertinent when it comes to organizational structure. Centralization refers to centralization or concentration of the decision making power at a single point in the entire organization. And in contrast, when the organization's top management gives maximum, though not complete discretion at the lower level personnel in the organization to make decisions at their level, that can be said to be a decentralized organization. In a decentralized organizations, action can be taken in a prompt and quick way to resolve various issues, and more people provide input into the decision making process. For the firms having a number of plants which are located at different places can utilize this decentralization and have an advantageous position in the market. With most of the large companies now preferring to make organization more flexible and responsive, there have been a marked change towards the decentralized decision making. The advantages of decentralization can be that it reduces the burden of the top management by freeing them from many operational decisions and enable them to concentrate on the strategic responsibility that they have to play in the organization. So it can also contribute to staff motivation by enabling them, that is the middle and lower level management employees, to get a taste of responsibility, and by encouraging them to use their knowledge, innovation and creative ideas and initiative by all the employees. There can also be certain disadvantages with decentralization, that is, it requires great coordination by senior and management to ensure the individual units in the organization are not working against each other or working against the interest of the entire organization. Then it can also lead to inconsistency of treatment of customers, clients or public, especially in service industry. Then decentralization does not require a plentiful of supply of capable and well-motivated managers who are able to cope with the increased responsibility which decentralization brings about. Then vertical organizational structure. Vertical organization is that in which the size of the hierarchical chain of command is long and the number of hierarchical levels are large in number. So, as such, more people have to communicate to the top management through intervening layers of executives. So, the main advantage of the vertical organizations are that they provide better communication of the organization's mission, value, goals to all the employees, then have the ability to sustain a very high degree of specialization of functions and roles. Then the disadvantages of vertical structure can be that too many hierarchical levels consume more time for communication, more time for decision making. So lots of decisions that need prompt attention and issues that need quick problem solutions can be delayed. So another disadvantage that vertical structure is that it goes hand in hand with the formality and standardization. The scope for initiative and risk taking at operational level becomes limited, and the advantage of decentralization can be limited when it comes to vertical organizational structures. So this type of structure can be seen as a chart which has been depicted in this slide. And then another organizational type is can be horizontal organization. Traditional vertical and hierarchical structure of the organization are being considered inappropriate to the requirements of the changing environment, and an increasing number of modern organizations are preferring the use of horizontal structures. These are created around 3 to 5 core processes for the time rather than traditional departmental functions. Vertical hierarchy is flattened to reduce the level of supervision needed at different levels, and this is done by combining the fragmented task eliminating work that fails to add value to the entire organization by cutting the minimum activities within each process. Then multidisciplinary and cross-functional self-managed teams are there, like finance, marketing, HR, quality control, operations, and are created to handle the core processes. And each team is entrusted with a core process. So the customer satisfaction, net profit are the primary drivers and measures of performance in horizontal type of organization. Okay. And here, relevant customer and suppliers may be brought in full working members of the team in charge of the core processes. All employees should be provided with all the data, and they should be trained in analyzing the use and collection of data to make effective decisions as a team member of the organization. Then advantages can be decision making process can be quick and problems could be solved in a prompt way. Then horizontal structure have a few disadvantages. That is, structure is absence of proper reporting to supervisors by the subordinate because of the decentralization of the power. And in this way, we have seen what are the different organizational structure, and together we have discussed 10 organizational structure. And here we come to the end of this discussion that we had. And tomorrow we will be discussing the seventh and eighth unit of the course. So this is Dr. Kirti, and wrapping up with this session. Thank you all, and have a great day. Thank you.